Welcome back to another MOTOBOB video where today we're going to be looking at the new 2023 Harley-Davidson lineup. They've just announced it. You've got 9 new models in there, or at least new paint jobs for some of them, some of which help celebrate their 120th anniversary. So in this video, we're going to go through each of the bikes and I'll tell you absolutely everything that you need to know about them. Now, first up, we'll take a look at the anniversary models, and the headline act has to be the CVO Road Glide Limited. Harley describe it as having one of the most intricate paint schemes ever offered by Harley-Davidson to celebrate 120 years of craftsmanship. Now, they describe it as panels of heirloom red that are applied over a base coat of anniversary black, each outlined with a bright red pinstripe and a hand-applied gold paint scallop. Subtle details added with the panels portray the head and wings of a soaring eagle. On top of that, you've also got a gold-plated tank medallion with an Art Deco style interpretation of the eagle, and they're describing that as an iconic Harley-Davidson design element. Also, you get the Alcantara seat with gold and red stitching, gold powertrain inserts, and bright red rocker boxes and pushrod tube collars. Definitely a very full-on finish, this one. It's not something you'd describe as stealthy or subtle, but that's not really the point. This one is for the Harley enthusiast to celebrate 120 years, and so in that regard, you've got to say it definitely hits the mark. It stands out massively from the regular road glides as something pretty special. 1,500 are going to be made worldwide, and you get the serial number etched onto a panel on the tank, and I'd expect all of them to go pretty quickly. I mean, even despite the fact that it's 50,395 pounds, which is just astronomical, I'd still expect them to go because we've seen plenty of special edition bikes like this sell out in minutes, regardless of the price tag. Fear not though if you're worried that you're gonna miss out on one, because there are plenty of other bikes that get a similar-ish paint scheme, and some of them you might say the price is a little more accessible, although pretty much still all of them are on the expensive side. Each of them gets a dedicated anniversary paint job, all of them with the heirloom red as their base color, plus the bright red pinstripes, the crimson fade, the eagle tank medallion, a seat cover with red side panels and a gold embroidered Harley logo, and then some red fade powertrain inserts. So here are the 6 models in price order. The Fat Boy comes in at 27,895, and there'll be 3,000 of those. 28,295 gets you the Heritage Classic at 1,700 units. For 32,995, you've got the Street Glide Special and Road Glide Special, both of which will be made with 1,600 each. At 35,495, you've got the Ultra Limited with 1,300 made. And then if you fancy a trike, there's the Tri-Glide Ultra at £51,495 with 1,100 units. Personally, I think the Ultra Limited probably looks the best of the bunch. It's not quite as intense in the finish as the CVO Road Glide Limited, but still looks a bit more special than average. And also the Heritage has always looked good to me. I like that more classic style, but let me know which you'd pick down in the comments below. Now, on top of these anniversary editions, we've also got a few more new arrivals, starting with the updated FREEWHEELER cruiser style trike. It still gets that big 114 cubic inch version of the Milwaukee 8 V-twin with all that low down torque it delivers. Still got the same chassis, same bodywork with the rear trunk, and a nice suite of rider aids, including cornering specific link braking, ABS, traction control, and drag torque slip control. But for the new model year, it's got this new finish, and for me, it looks way more mean and aggressive. The previous generation had a fairly bright looking chrome finish on all of the hardware, but this one is fully blacked out on the engine and components, which I think improves it massively. Also, new 18-inch wheels at the rear instead of the 15 inches on the previous gen, and a new design to the front wheel, and I think both of those combine for another big visual boost. It's got a bit more of a custom look to it, or they say it was like hot rod style, and I think the rear wheels definitely give it a bit more of that angle. Also getting a fresh new look is the Breakout, along with some pretty significant performance and practicality improvements. Not necessarily a bike that screams practicality, but stick with me. Firstly, it gets a bump in capacity with the 114 cubic inch engine in the previous gen, making way for the 117, and the result is a pretty significant boost in peak power and peak torque. So the previous gen made 155 Newton meters at 3,250 RPM and 94 horses of peak power at 5,020. This new one gets 101 horsepower at 4,750 and 167 Newton meters at 3,500 RPM, so it should feel quite a bit more lively. And on top of that, quite literally, you've now got a much bigger fuel tank. So the previous year models had a 13.2 litre tank, which is not huge for such a big, thirsty engine, but now it gets an 18.9 litre tank, so nearly 6 litres more, and that's going to give you about 40 or 43% increase in range, which, you know, if you do live somewhere a little bit remote and where fuel stops are few and far between, that is a major difference. Electronically as well, cruise control now comes as standard, and also there's traction control. Might not be a massive concern for most people because basically you just want to spin the back wheel up everywhere you go on a bike like this, but you know, nice to have if you need it. And then also you've got a new higher bar position, new chrome finishing on some of the hardware, the heavy breather air intake, and some 26 spoke cast aluminium wheels, which I think look pretty bling. The only downside is the price has gone up a fair bit from last year, but I think the performance increase and the extra range make it reasonable to justify. Perhaps of most interest though, out of the announcements they've made today, would be the new NIGHTSTER Special. It's the most accessible price point anyway. So the NIGHTSTER is the new liquid-cooled successor to the Sportster lineup. I was lucky enough to test it out last year, and first impressions were pretty good, but this platform was always going to lead to some more iterations, and for 2023 we've got this new Special. I think the big update here is that the dash, the round analog speedo of the standard NIGHTSTER, is replaced with the 4-inch TFT display that I think came straight off the Sportster S. That means you've got a lot more functionality, so you now get phone connectivity with call handling and media playback, and also it opens up the Harley-Davidson app, which you can use for navigation and get the prompts on the screen. You've also got a couple of custom riding modes, so you can play with the parameters yourself. You get rain, road and sport on the standard bike, but of course with it being such a simple dash, you couldn't possibly go through and configure a lot of settings, so the new dash kind of enables that feature as well. And again, it's pretty much the same story with the TPMS or tire pressure monitoring system. That's now standard on this bike and of course shows up on the dash. Comfort also gets a big boost on this bike, so you get the passenger seat and passenger pegs as standard. Cruise control is also standard, and also there's a more upright and therefore potentially more comfortable riding position owing to the fact that the bars have been moved up and back. Looks wise, it's also a little bit more fancy, so they've given it these spoked but cast aluminium wheels. They're painted silver, and so I think that's probably an attempt to make it look a bit more like traditional proper spoke wheels. You get that sort of retro Harley badge on the tank, and then also there's 3 color options, so black, blue and yellow. So lots of new features. The only downside I'd say is that it's a couple of gram more than the standard NIGHTSTER, so we'll have to reserve judgment as to whether it's worth it until I actually get to ride one. And in fact, in the meantime, we've got a deeper sort of walk around video coming at this bike in the next few days. So if you're not already subscribed and you want to see that when it goes live, then I'd definitely recommend subscribing. And if you haven't seen it already, my full review of the NIGHTSTER that I shot out in Spain last year is on the screen here, so give it a watch. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. There we go.